Salazar wins a bit, and she joins me now. Hello, Olivia.
Good morning.
So we're going to start off with some revelations about the Chinese Prime Minister's bank account.
Well, perhaps not Wen Jiabao's personal account, but certainly the fortunes of his friends and family. Now, the New York Times have this amazing, very long report, which they've compiled with a lot of investigative journalism and a few WikiLeaks cables, actually. They talk about the multi-billion-dollar assets of the Chinese Prime Minister's extended family, name-checking his wife as a major player in the diamond and jewellery markets, his son, who's got huge stakes in telecoms, infrastructure and private equity firms. And all of this is to be expected. Of course, his son's very well educated and his wife was a businesswoman when he met her. But then you have his mother and father who were very, very poor during his childhood, his younger brother, daughter-in-law, parents-in-law, who are all suspiciously rich, according to the New York Times. Now, the paper estimates their combined wealth to be some $2.7 billion, which is staggering when you think that this man heads up the Communist Party, an administration that asks all of its senior figures to reveal their financial assets. So you might ask, how did they get away with amassing this kind of wealth without it being publicly known? Well, the rule is you have to declare what your immediate family earn or own. That, in his case, would be his wife, his son and his daughter. But parents-in-law, brother-in-laws, nephews or nieces would be able to keep their accounts under wraps. Now, to explain all of this, the New York Times has a nice diagram showing just who's who, how they're connected, and the different investments they have made through a string of companies or holdings, sometimes 5 times removed from the original investor, in an attempt to cover their tracks. And the industries include jewellery, like I said, diamonds, telecoms, infrastructure, all sorts. The article does suggest, of course, that the upturn in all of their fortunes coincided with the rise to power of Wen Jiabao. And the journalist sums up saying that this is a really interesting example of the intersection of government influence and private wealth in China's new economy. A blog post in the same paper goes a little bit further, giving opinion, saying this is the real hypocrisy of the whole story. This is a man who in 2007 asked all government officials to fight against corruption, to ensure that their family and friends don't abuse government influence. And he's also been seen as the people's leader, Grandpa Wen in Chinese. And so this could really dent his reputation and perhaps his future in the party.
Disappointing news, perhaps, for some. Next, moving on, there's some new reactions to the story of Malala. That's the Pakistani girl who was shot by the Taliban for campaigning for women's education. Seems she has some quite high-profile supporters.
Well, when this news broke a couple of weeks ago, obviously she had a lot of sympathy and there was outcry in the global media about what happened to her at the hands of the Taliban. Now politicians are adding their voices to that condemnation to get some action on this issue. Former UK Prime Minister Gordon Brown has been writing editorials in plenty of papers this week, and today's article was in The Guardian. It's called Malala's Courage Can Start a New Movement for Global Education. And Gordon Brown is the UN Envoy for Global Education, so the case of girls like Malala is obviously primary among his concerns. He's promoting a UN-backed petition to call on the Pakistani government to ensure that every Pakistani girl has a place in school. Now, he'll present this to the Pakistani Prime Minister Zardari on the 10th of November. He said that obviously he's pleased about the support she's been getting, but more needs to be done to push for actual government and, structural action on this issue. And that's taken up, the whole idea of the Taliban is taken up in the International Herald Tribune by a Pakistani journalist, a woman who points out that she's benefited from a Western education. She says that Malala's not the only victim in this whole story, that other young women are being victimised in the Swat Valley, and the authorities are wasting their time playing a blame game with Afghanistan and not protecting these vulnerable members of society, nor are they pursuing the Taliban for what they've done.
Okay, and finally, scientists have found new evidence to suggest that even 3 million years ago, little children still climbed trees.
Yes, this is a new development for human evolution. Apparently, we're going to change the way we think about how humans actually first walked or climbed. They found the fossilised remains of a 3-year-old little girl from East Africa, and the development of her shoulder blades suggests that she was still climbing trees, much like monkeys, even after she was walking upright. So it challenges the whole idea that we stopped climbing trees and then started walking. It was more simultaneous. And it looks like our tree climbing proclivities go back about 3 million years.
Wow, I thought that was just going to be a story about what kids did for fun back in the olden times, but it's a little bit more scientific than that. Thank you very much indeed, Olivia, for that look at today's international papers. Coming up, one French bank gets a downgrade while another is named in an interest rate fixing probe. We'll have more on both those stories in business with Matthew Warren coming up after the break.